Have a seat, because we've got a couple of questions. I'm going to try and answer them now. Let me do the really easy one first. The first question is this: for husband and wives who got divorced because of an affair, can they remarry? Simple answer to that is yes. Because of that passage we read today. Remember, even in that context, the passage that phrase that Paul used, they are not bound, that is in the context, not even in an affair, it's just in the context of their spouse leaving them, not wanting to be married to them anymore, divorce them, rather than them divorcing their wife, their spouse divorce them, because it takes two to want to be married. Even in that case, Paul says, they are not bound anymore. Not being bound means they are free. Free to do what? Free to remarry. Look, I realize that traditionally Christians have held different views, but I think this one makes the most sense. Especially when Jesus says that exception is very clear. Divorce means the marriage is finished, it's done, and they can remarry. Even historically, if you look at ancient documents, for ancient Jewish divorce certificates and also ancient Greco-Roman divorce certificates, it always says they are free to remarry. The fact that divorce means you have the freedom to marry someone else. So I think the answer to that is very simple. Yes, they can remarry. The second question is really interesting, and I'm really glad you asked this question. Does being content in our phase of life mean that we should not be extensively planning for our future? We should just take whatever comes our way, be it getting married or not. It's all part of God's plan. Now, I'm just going to assume this question comes from the context of someone who's unmarried. Should you then extensively plan to get married in the future? Or should you just kind of, if a girl comes along and she wants to marry me, it'll just happen? Well, the answer to that question, it really depends on what you mean by extensive. But the principle here is really simple. Know what is most important. What is most important that we have learned from this passage? It's holiness. It's living a life of holiness. In fact, for Paul, in this context, because of holiness, you should get married. Just marry anybody who is a Christian. It doesn't matter if he's good looking or not. It doesn't matter whether he is dressed nicely. It doesn't matter whether she is pretty or ugly. Just get married. For Paul, that is the context of what Paul is saying. Do you get it? What matters the most is actually holiness. It's not finding the most perfect spouse that you can find. Now, being a Christian is going to be really important. And I actually believe that Christians should not marry non-Christians. I actually believe, I think it is a sin for Christians to marry a non-Christian. Let me give you practical steps. If you're a guy and you're single, have a shower. Comb your hair. Be open to getting to know the opposite sex. But keep focusing on your holiness. Keep striving to follow Jesus in whatever phase of life you're in. You see, this extensive planning, it goes beyond, and we start getting distracted. It goes beyond what is most important when, for example, you go on dating apps where you will most likely or definitely meet non-Christians. I think that takes you away from the path of holiness. Right? If you can only marry a Christian and you go on a dating app where you will definitely meet non-Christians, what are you trying to do? Being married, unmarried, in the sphere of 6 billion years, it won't matter. What was most important is holiness, growing in your love for Jesus, serving one another, living for Christ, being His holy people. Comb your hair, have a shower, talk to the girls at church, get to know other people, yes. Even go to Christian dating websites, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't go beyond what God wants you to do. When you do that, that's when you get distracted. That's when holiness takes backstage and it doesn't become important anymore. Hopefully that helps. If you have any more questions, keep asking them. I'll try and answer them a different time. You probably have to wait 3 weeks though. Are we going to finish now?